Hello, Pink Collective, and welcome to Pink After Dark. Tonight's tales blur the line between true and fictional, so get comfortable, turn down the lights, and let's begin.
Good evening, Blackwood Insomniacs. It's your local ghost storyteller here, Clifford. If you're still awake, you're in the right place. Quick update, Brother Alex is still in a coma. However, all his functions, like brain activity, are good, and he seems to respond when he hears my voice telling his stories. Also, a huge thank you to all the get well wishes. My mom reads him the comments as they come in, so you are all helping keep him motivated, and I believe he'll wake up any day now. Hope everyone had an awesome Christmas, and what is everyone doing for New Year's 2026, people? Can you believe it? The comments from the last episode regarding the mirror, some of you said you actually had the mirror in your dorm and returned it because you felt like someone was watching you. One person said they also saw the red lipstick on the mirror and that it always came back no matter how many times they wiped it off. Someone else said they broke the mirror after seeing a woman standing behind them in the reflection and threw it away. And of course, there were plenty of comments saying, why didn't they just burn it or bury it? And most of the comments went to Alex. Thank you all so much for your support, and please take a second to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already.
Yeah, subscribe. The guy is in a coma, for crying out loud.
Harper, shh. But yeah, my brother is in a coma. The least you can do is subscribe. So Alex, today you won't be hearing one of your own stories. You'll be hearing a story I wrote. I'm actually surprised you haven't done this one, because I'm sure I've heard you mention it before. Marcus told me the story and said maybe I should put it on your channel. Yes, I'm talking about Marcus Evans. I know you're not a big fan of his, but he sends his regards. Alright, Blackwood Insomniacs, this week's story is about the Delta Theta Rho sorority house. Delta Theta Rho has a tradition they perform for all new pledges. During rush week, the sorority house chooses a few girls to bid on. The chosen girls then go through a testing period, completing tasks, attending events, and yes, some hazing. After completing all of these tasks, if the house is happy with the girls they selected, there is one final thing each girl must do to secure her place in the Delta Theta Rho sorority house. She must lay in a casket in an open grave for a few hours. Nope, not even if you pay me.
What if you shared the coffin with one of the guys from the neighborhood or Fallout Boy?
Well, that's not fair. This is a tradition the Delta Theta Rho sorority house carries out in memory of a fallen sister from many decades ago. The girls are told a week in advance that on a specific night they need to be in their room by a set time, and that the sisters from the sorority house will come to get one of them and take her to what they call the last pledge site. Each of the pledges waits patiently in her room. They're also asked to make sure they are alone. Their roommates need to be out until midnight at the latest, because by then, the chosen girl should already be back, if she was chosen at all. 1 year, 6 pledges made it through every task that was given to them. On a cloudy Wednesday night, the sisters of Delta Theta Rho came to the dorm room of one of their new pledges. They placed a blindfold over her eyes and led her out into the night. As they walked deeper into the woods at the edge of campus, the air grew heavier and colder. The trees pressed in close, their bare branches reaching overhead like twisted fingers lacing together to block out the sky. And then, slowly, they began to appear out of the dark headstones. Old ones, the kind with no names left on them, worn smooth by decades of rain. Whether the graves had been there before the university was built, or whether the university had been built around them, no one really knew. No one asked, who built a university next to an unmarked graveyard, and just doesn't mention it at orientation? Near a clearing between the graves and the trees, there was an open grave. They walked the girl closer, and she could feel the ground change beneath her feet, softer here like the earth had already been disturbed. Inside the grave was an open casket. The white linen inside was in pristine condition, almost too clean for something sitting in a hole in the ground. The bottom half of the lid was still closed. They removed the girl's blindfold. She blinked, taking in the crooked headstones, the black tree line, the open pit in front of her. The sisters told her about their fallen sister, a girl who had been murdered by her boyfriend and dumped in an open grave, left alone in the dark to die. They told her that to help lay that poor girl's soul to rest, every Delta Theta Rho sister must feel what she felt in those final hours. She must lay in the casket with the lid closed, and they would come back for her. If she couldn't handle it, she could climb out on her own. They would understand. But then, she could never be a Delta Theta Rho sister because she couldn't carry the weight of a fallen sister. The girl nervously agreed. She had come too far, and she really wanted to be part of the most revered sorority house at Blackwood University. She climbed down into the grave and opened the bottom half of the lid to step inside. But she paused. There was dirt at the bottom of the casket, shoe prints. She stared at them for a moment. Were they just marks left behind from careless handling? Or were they the frantic scrape marks of someone who had tried to kick their way out from the inside? She decided on the first option. Her own shoes weren't exactly clean either. She settled herself down into the casket, pulled the bottom lid closed over her legs, and lay back. She looked up at her future sisters leaning over the edge of the grave, and beyond them at the night sky. The moon was hiding behind the clouds, only peeking out for a moment, like it was stealing one last look at her, before she reached up and closed the top lid. And then it was dark. The sorority sisters all agreed to head to a club in town, which wasn't too far if you went over the old brick wall that separated the university from the surrounding streets. Part of the wall had started to crumble with age, making it easy enough to climb over. They had left the girl just after 9 o'clock and planned to leave the club before 11 so they could get back and let her out in time. 1 hour in, one of the girls noticed a group of students burst through the club doors, completely drenched from head to toe, water dripping off them like they'd walked through a waterfall. She signaled to the other girls. They stepped outside, and their stomachs dropped. It was pouring, the kind of rain that comes out of nowhere and makes you question every decision you've ever made. The cobblestone streets looked like shallow rivers. The streetlights barely pushed through the curtain of rain, smearing the light into dull, useless halos. The girls ran. They slipped on the wet cobblestones, scrambled over the crumbling wall, and tore through the dark, muddy woods, calling out to each other as the trees swallowed the light from the campus behind them. They struggled to find the grave. The ground was so saturated it had lost all definition, every patch of earth looking the same in the dark, until one girl's foot punched straight through into the open grave. She screamed in surprise and yelled for the others. But as she tried to pull her leg free, she felt it. Something wrapped around her ankle. Cold, tight, pulling. She screamed and wrenched herself free, scrambling backward on her hands, while the others grabbed her. One of them looked down into the grave. The casket was completely submerged. The water had filled the hole so fast, so quietly, that none of them had even seen it coming. One girl jumped in without hesitating. The muddy water swallowed her to the waist before she surfaced, gasping, and dove down to find the lid. She got it open, grabbed the girl inside, and screamed for the others to help pull her up. They hauled her out of the water and over the edge, some of the sisters crying, others shouting, one frantically trying to get her wet phone to work long enough to dial 911. The girl who pulled her out started CPR, pressing down hard, counting under her breath. It didn't seem to be working. Two girls told the 911 operator they would meet the ambulance at the wall and show them the way in. But they all knew, standing there in the dark and the rain, mud to their knees, that it was already too late. She didn't make it. During the investigation, detectives determined that the waterlogged ground had likely shifted around the casket, making the lid nearly impossible to push open from the inside, and the volume of water rushing in would have done the rest. The sorority girls received a formal warning, as it was ruled an accident, and the Delta Theta Rho house was forbidden from ever performing the open grave tradition again. But rumor has it, they didn't stop, they simply added her to the story. Now she was another reason why pledges needed to help put a fallen sister's soul to rest. 2 of them now. But the girl who drowned didn't like that very much. She started appearing in the dreams of Delta Theta Rho sisters, standing at the foot of their beds, soaking wet, perfectly still, just watching. Then she started haunting anyone who climbed into the casket. New pledges couldn't go through with it. The Delta Theta Rho membership began to dwindle. But dear brother, this isn't where the story ends. Many people believe that the girls who went missing in spring this year were Delta Theta Rho pledges, and that on the night of their initiation, they were taken, pulled down into that grave, and never let go, so that no one would ever want to join Delta Theta Rho again. If you're listening to this and wondering about the timeline, in most places, Rush Week happens in the fall, right? Well, at Blackwood University, Rush Week runs in the spring semester. The idea is that freshmen and new students get to settle into university life first. At least that's what they told us during orientation week, which means Rush Week is coming up soon, and I only just finished writing this. Great timing, Allie. I honestly don't know which sorority house I'll be joining yet, but this story has me feeling a little less enthusiastic about Delta Theta Rho, that's for sure. Not that it bothered Harper at all. She says she still wants to join them. Who cares about some girl who might have drowned? Her words, not mine. I love her, but wow. So Blackwood freshmen, when rush week comes, which sorority or frat house are you thinking of joining? And do you believe there's a girl down there in that grave waiting for new pledges? Let me know in the comments below, and if you're not at Blackwood, share with us what you had to do to join your sorority or frat house. I promise we want to hear it, no matter how strange. That's enough from me, Blackwood Insomniacs. I hope you're all finding your way to dreamland by now. Though maybe just double check under the bed first. This is Allie. Good night, Alex.
If tonight's story stayed with you, become part of the Pink Collective by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Until next time, Pink Collective, stay curious, stay safe, and stay pink.